And we are back. Thank you so much for staying with us. And in case you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome to Kenya's Gold. And as usual, today being a Wednesday, we do focus on animal farming, but we are narrowing it down to catfish farming in Kenya. I did get the opportunity to taste catfish for the very first time. And we also did a poll online to see how many people have tasted catfish before. Let us look at the results before I introduce our guest of the day. So have you eaten a catfish before? 44% of the people, yes, they have. 56%, no, they haven't. Well, now at least I've moved away from the 56%. I'm part of the 44% thanks to the experience I did get in Thika. Now, moving to our guest of the day, we are joined by Dr. Ronnie Kiari, who is a professional vet surgeon at only 24 years old. First of all, I'm impressed. Good stuff.
Yes.
Karibu sana Kenya's Gold.
Feel very welcomed.
You're only 24 and a professional vet surgeon. Please
Yes.
take us through that. You studied for this. Help us understand.
So in Kenya, as a vet surgeon, you tend to do 5 years of coursework with starting your clinicals in your third year.
Right.
Then you tend to do 1 year of internship to become licensed. Then after that, you can choose to specialize by doing your master's, which is an equivalent of a residency program. And I'm currently pursuing one in surgery.
So you're now doing your master's?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What inspired you to get into agriculture as a young person?
Basically, for me, it's been seeing it through my parents.
Right.
Yes, because they're really passionate farmers. Also seeing it through your grandparents, you go back to the village, and the taste of milk, you know, is different from the one you find in the city. So yeah, that's really an inspiration for me.
Great.
Yeah.
Tell us the trend you saw in school. Did you have very many other students who you were graduating with still keen in the agriculture sector?
Yes, you'd say about 50% are quite keen in joining agriculture. And in our class, I believe about 20 are already involved in agriculture in one way or another.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are doing well.
Yes.
The young people are getting the hang of it.
Definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, moving to the conversation of the day, we are focusing on catfish farming in Kenya. And for us to get catfish, it's either you're doing it through the aquaculture system, where you have your fish ponds and your cages back at home, or you're also doing the capture fisheries, you know, the traditional way. Please tell us from the two, where is the production the highest and why?
I would say production is the highest in the aquaculture sector because you tend to, you know, you're growing it yourself. The quality is higher. You get to control what feed they're feeding. In case they get sick, you get to attend to them directly. As compared to capture, you know, it's more of commercially intensive. So you tend to just go fish them, get them out, and then quality is assessed maybe at the time when they are going to be slaughtered and everything. So yeah, I believe aquaculture is...
The production is higher when it comes to aquaculture.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about capture fisheries, over the last 10 years, there has been a significant decline in the production. And one of the reasons, besides the effects of climate change, is overfishing.
Yes.
And I want to understand, at what point does your practice as someone who is a farmer, a fish farmer, you know, this is their daily job. At what point does their routine now move from being proper fishing to overfishing? What are those things that you do that now make this? Now you're overfishing. Yeah.
So with overfishing, you see with aquaculture, you tend to separate the ones who are at the level of breeding such that if they're viable, you put them aside, you don't end up you know, taking them out of that cycle. And also you don't end up taking the young ones, the fingerlings and everything. But what happens with overfishing, you tend to overdo it, whereby you're taking the fingerlings, you're taking the ones who are ripe for breeding and everything. So you tend to have a lower breeding number and you end up having a decrease in the fish population.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there any way to mitigate that?
Definitely it's through governmental policies and good corporate and economic practices, just fishing at a moderate level, not overdoing it. Yeah.
All right. Are those government policies in effect, or we're still somewhere where the lines are very blurry?
I would say they're a bit blurry, but I believe with the government, you know, integrating or various sectors, working with the law enforcers, working with the legislature and everything, I believe we can attain that.
And I hope with having young people like you on board, you'll
yes.
be able to bring that change.
Yes.
Let's not talk about it, let us be about it, isn't it? All right. Now, something that we have learned in this journey of catfish farming, which was a surprise to a lot of us, is the fact that catfish is more suitable for aquaculture as compared to tilapia, which is the most farmed fish in Kenya. Yeah. It's very easy for someone to think, no, actually tilapia is the most suitable because we see it all the time, we eat it all the time. What is it about catfish that makes it very suitable or more suitable for aquaculture?
Okay, so from time to time we tend to see cultural and religious practices tend to inhibit that. You find there's a certain culture that won't accept it because maybe it's funny looking, you know, it's not the normal type of fish. In other instances, sorry, do you mind repeating the question again?
So what makes catfish more suitable for aquaculture?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, got you. So in other cases, they tend to have a higher, they tend to grow faster and they tend to survive in really harsh conditions, whereby you find that the level of oxygen required to raise catfish is quite, might be lower. So their optimal level is usually 3 milligrams per ml or per liter of water, sorry. That's their optimal, but they can survive all the way to 1 milligram per liter. And you see that that 3 milligram is usually like the lower end of the tilapia, so they tend to survive the oxygen concentration. Then there's also they tend to survive in high ammonia and nitrate concentrated waters. So, you know, if you don't assess regularly for those values, the catfish won't have a problem, but other fishes will have a problem.
Right.
Then there's also the added advantage of them surviving well with other fishes, such as the tilapia. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Now, you've mentioned the fact that they grow very fast.
Yes.
Please tell us how many months that is and at what point are now they're ready to be taken to the market.
I'd say between 5 to 8 months, they're ready to go.
So from 5 to 8 months, they can go to the market.
Yes.
But when you are advising a farmer on how they can get probably the best, you know, returns out of it, is there a specific month, like you say, please wait until month 7. As much as you can harvest from month 5, you can wait until. Is there like a more suitable time for you to take to the market?
You just take the lower end with the higher end and do an average. That ideally should be the best time to take it to the market.
Great.
Yes.
Now, by the fact that they are hardy, meaning Nima survivors,
yes,
they kind of can adapt, you know, to various environmental conditions that other fish wouldn't. But what are those conditions that you need to make sure you take care of as much as they are survivors, so that we also, you know, don't take advantage of the fact that they are survivors to waeke tu anyhow, you know, expecting good results from them. What are those boxes I need to tick regardless of the quality they have?
So definitely is to ensure that there's proper aeration, there's proper nutrition. There's also proper, you know, proper systems in the sense of your biosecurity is quite tight. You know who is coming in, what type of fish is being brought in, so that you avoid spread of diseases to the fish that are already there. You also need to guarantee that a vet is quite important.
That's where you come in.
Yes. So in case they're sick, fish do suffer from diseases. Consult your nearest vet, let them come have a look, examine, know what is going on, determine whether it's bacterial, fungal, parasitic, and offer the appropriate treatment.
Great.
Yes.
Now, from the feature we just watched, when we went into the hatchery, or even where the mature catfish were, we did have to dip our feet in the, you know, that place that has the chemical, and most of the time we see that in the foot dip, right? Most of the time we see that in chicken. I think every poultry farmer has that, but from very many other fish farmers that we have visited, not so many are keen on that, but we saw it with this particular farmer. Please tell us the importance of that. So
that solution that usually dip is usually either 1% hypochlorite solution, which is essentially jig, diluted jig, or formalin, diluted formalin, but the jig is preferred because formalin has its own disadvantages. So that is a form of biosecurity. In the sense, you come into the farm, you need to dip. You've walked so many places. The car has been in so many places. You don't know what it has picked up. So you need to dip there. Just you're reducing the amount of pathogen load, the amount of bacterial load. So that's essentially its purpose.
So are you advising other farmers who are not using the food dip to do the same?
Yes, any type of farmer, be it beef, be it dairy, kindly do that for you.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, various farmers have different ways of doing their practices. You know, it depends on who you learned from. Kuna mtu alijifundisha from their neighbor and they copied everything that they were doing. Then there's someone who went to school. Something else that has come up in trips to various farmers is having frogs in your fish ponds.
Okay.
All right. And apparently they play a very important role in that ecological balance.
Yeah.
But also it's not being practiced by every farmer.
Yeah.
Why frogs? And is it recommended in the fish pond?
Particularly for catfish, I wouldn't recommend. They're more of a predator to them than being advantageous. Maybe other types of fish, especially the ornamental fish, they survive really well with goldfish. You can do that. But for the catfish, I wouldn't advise unless you look into it. Maybe there's a specific type of frog, not just, you know, any frog you go and pick up and yeah.
And why would I be putting my ornamental fish where there's the frog? What role do they play? How do they help?
Basically to enhance biodiversity in your pond.
All right.
Yes.
So you've told me I can't do that for my catfish.
Yes.
But can I do that for tilapia?
I wouldn't also advise. Yes.
So we stick to ornamental for the frogs.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So now that we are learning that catfish farming is very lucrative, but the message is not home yet.
Yeah.
All right. You've even seen about 56% of people have not tasted catfish. I was one of them until last week, and then now I can proudly say, yeah, I'm a catfish eater. What can we do to, you know, increase desensitization? Because now we are seeing just how important the catfish is.
So for me, I'd say more of public campaigns. You have public campaigns where the government partners with the media houses and even currently today to the social media influencers. And, you know, you come up with a nice campaign to promote, you know, this catfish is good, which will promote the market to be there. You know, someone will want to try it, meaning there's a market that has been created for it. And then we'd also like to see favorable government policies and legislature, also improvement in infrastructure, because, I mean, you can be farming, but if you don't have the appropriate infrastructure for your fish, you know, from farm to the table, there needs to be proper infrastructure to exist there.
All right.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So social media influencers, leveraging technology is part of the plan. You've already, just from what you've said, you have a plan on what we can do for starters. Have you, in your capacity, tried to present these great ideas? Because now we want to change things. We don't want to sit back with our amazing ideas and do nothing about them. What have you done about these great plans that you have, that you know very well if we implement, then we might get somewhere with catfish production in the country?
Personally encouraging my friends to try out different types of cuisines, especially fish cuisines. So yeah, that's my part. But when it comes to other things like social media, I might soon try it.
Right.
And also get the attention of the legislature.
Great.
Yes.
Now, a vet surgeon is very important for catfish farming, right?
Yes,
and you've also mentioned it's very important for a farmer to keep the vet close. Talk to us about some of the diseases that could affect your catfish.
So with catfish, we typically expect bacterial diseases where you will see the fish, the fin rotting and the tail rotting. You can also see fungal diseases whereby you see some woolly or cottony appearance on the fish. You also expect parasitic diseases whereby we do have ectoparasites and endoparasites. So ectoparasites act on the exterior of the fish, so whereby you have the fish louse, and endoparasites are the ones that affect them from the inside, such as the nematodes and basically the nematodes. And then we can also have in the sense of nutrition. If there's poor nutrition, whereby we don't have appropriate proteins or lipids, we tend to see them have liver issues.
Right.
So you need your vet to come in also to assess those.
All right. So when I notice, I go check my pond and here there is my catfish where the tail is rotting, the fins are rotting. What is the immediate action that you need to take?
So the immediate action is to identify those that are sick and put them in a separate pond, if possible. And then basically there are various treatment regimes you can use. You can use the common table salt, which is cheaply and readily available. The salt
at home?
Yes.
So what do you do with the salt?
You just mix it in the water. It really helps.
So where you have separated them,
yes,
the sick ones?
The sick ones is basically to prevent you further spread.
Right.
So you now introduce in each and every pond the number of ponds you have.
So you introduce table salt?
Yes.
All right.
You can introduce lime. You can introduce potassium permanganate. Formalin can be used, but you need to be careful with formalin because it has carcinogenic properties and it tends to decrease the oxygen concentration in the fish pond.
All right. Yeah. But for farmers who choose to, do this treatment by themselves, and I want you to address the treating part and also the breeding part, where we have seen farmers have learned how to do it and they're doing it themselves. Is it recommended that you do it by yourself, or it's important to get an expert to help you with these processes?
I would say in the initial stages, it's good to get an expert, especially I've seen with the hormone therapy. You get an expert because there's a certain amount of dosage you need to give.
So that's the hormone that we're injecting the female?
Yes. Or in the case of the drugs you're going to use, the salt, you cannot just go, because catfish are freshwater fish, you cannot just go and put a lot until it becomes salty.
What will be the risk of putting excess hormone? We've seen how it's done in our feature, but if I'm a farmer and I'm not keen, and then I end up putting either excess or less, what will I notice that will be a clear indicator we got it wrong?
Definitely you will notice that there's a reduction in the fingerlings you're getting or in your production. So getting the right dose usually helps. And also we prevent, subsequently those hormones traveling up as the humans eat it and everything, getting it. So we need the right dosage that will be cleared from the system by the time they're being harvested.
All right. Yeah. And that's why an expert is very important, right? Important. Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Kiaria, for your insights. You are definitely very well informed about your sector. It's such a breath of fresh air to listen to you. When we come back, we want to learn what are the conditions that you need to make sure that you achieve in your hatchery. That and a lot more will be forming part of our conversation when we come back from this short commercial break.